Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us this afternoon to discuss simple search engine optimization strategies for associations. I know some folks are still jumping on, but we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Just a heads up, when we were putting this presentation together, we realized just how much content we wanted to cover. So we may go just a little bit over our allotted 30 minutes. If you can hang on a bit longer, that would be great. But if not, we will be sending a recording after the fact, so you can catch anything that you may have missed. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. And again, after today's session, we'll email a link to each of you, or you can access it anytime on our website. Just go to omnipress.com, and under resources, you'll see a link to our webinars. You can also submit questions at any time. We will take questions at the end for anyone who wants to hang on, regardless of what time it is. So just simply type your question into the GoToWebinar toolbar. Now on to introductions. So I am Tracy Grabowski, the Director of Marketing for Omnipress.
And I'm Sarah Peck, the Digital Marketing Strategist at Omnipress.
And just a little bit about Omnipress for those of you who might not be familiar. So we work with hundreds of associations each year to help them collect, produce, and deliver their digital and print educational content for conferences, instructor-led training programs, and member publications. Here's a list of our products and services that serve in-person, hybrid, and virtual education. Note that we do not provide SEO or marketing services. We are an in-house team marketing Omnipress. But because of the work we do, we know how important this content is to fulfilling your mission. And we see lots of opportunities for organizations to make this content work even harder. So Sarah and I are here today just as two marketing geeks who are just as passionate about the mission of associations as you are. Okay, so now time for the fun part, the topic at hand. Search engine optimization, or SEO, is a very broad term that covers a lot of territory. But at the end of the day, what does SEO really mean? It's making sure that your content appears at the moment that members are searching for resources. So why does this matter? Isn't my association already the leading voice of knowledge and education? Well, it is, absolutely, but mostly to your current members. To grow, you're going to need to attract new members, and most importantly, those young professionals. And right now, they're turning to Google for answers more than any other resource. In fact, the Pew Research Center conducted a survey of middle and high school teachers. 94% of these teachers said their students are very likely to use Google as one of their primary sources of research. And as the parent of two teens, I can tell you that I absolutely see this firsthand. That means that as working adults, they're still turning to Google or to Bing. And when they do, they need to be surrounded by your content. So the question then is, are they? Not necessarily. So one search, I'm sure as we've all seen, can produce thousands upon thousands of pages of results. But only the top 5 results get 65% of the clicks. So that means people aren't even getting through all of the results just on the first page. And the really interesting part is who is most often in these top 5 results. A lot of times it's other industry organizations who are also competing for the attention of your members. And here's a real life example that I'm going to use to illustrate this point. I'm going to pick on ASAE just a little bit, but I think they're a fantastic organization and have so much to offer the industry. So one of the topics that I'm interested in is how to keep attendees engaged after the conference ends. And this was a topic that was back at ASAE 2019. If you can remember a year ago when we were actually able to meet in person. And that session was the annual conference as a year-long engagement tool. So when I go to Google and I search this exact title, you'll see that it comes up in the #2 listing in search results. Okay, so now let's pretend I didn't attend the conference, but I'm looking for ideas on this same topic. So we played around with this in Google and searched a few different ways. One example is that we used the same basic terms that were in that session title and just twisted them around a bit. So we typed in events, year-round engagement strategy. And what you're seeing right now is a screenshot of the first page of the search results. So at the top is a blog article we wrote, yay, but you also see a variety of other industry resources, including PCMA, which is another association, and then a company like Visit Dallas, who actually exhibits at ASAE. So we played around with a few other search terms, one of which being association member engagement strategies. I know it's something that a lot of us are thinking about a lot. How do we continue to keep our members engaged so we retain them? And again, this is a snapshot of the first page of search results. And we see content from a number of resources and industry partners. Again, folks I see exhibit at ASAE, for instance, but nothing from ASAE. But the thing is, we know ASAE has published a significant amount of content on this topic. I mean, this is a screenshot from a search that I did on their own resources section. So why wasn't I able to find any of these articles on Google? This is where SEO comes in and why it is so important. Now, we could easily spend weeks diving into all of the facets of SEO, and we're not going to do that. But today we're going to focus on 3 quick wins that are often overlooked but would still make a huge difference. And they are web page optimization, document optimization, and putting content in front of the gate. And we're even going to show you some real live examples of some of these. And we're going to spend a few minutes talking about site performance. Google wants you to have a good experience on whatever websites they send you to. So even if you were to do everything you need to for your organization on steps 1 to 3, your site still needs to perform well by Google standards to be served up in search results. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who is going to walk you through web page optimization.
Thank you, Tracy. So SEO, I'm going to discuss first the why and the how. So the purpose of SEO is to increase the quality and quantity of website visits via organic search. And I do want to stress the quality. We want to get those people who are really interested in our organization to visit our site. So in order to kind of get into that, how we go about doing that, I want to first discuss how search engines work, the nutshell version. So search engines like Google and Bing send out spiders, what we call spiders, across the web, and they crawl the web. And when they get to your site, they're taking note of all the different content that's on your page, but particularly they're taking note of a few things like title tags, description tags, what your navigation is, any text that you have on your images, and they're storing all that information, they're filing it away, and then when somebody performs a search query that's related to what your website is about, your website will be served to them in a specific ranking order. So that's kind of how search engines work. So in order to give you a little bit more insight into what those spiders are actually crawling for, I've put together this SEO checklist. So the first thing is your URL. Your URL is a great place to put in some keywords that you want to focus on telling Google what your page is about. So here's our URL for our abstract management software Catalyst. And you can see within the URL, we have conferences and abstract management. So those are definitely keywords related to what our page is about, and we have them in our URL. The next item is title tag. So you've all seen the title tag. It's that clickable blue headline that you see in a Google search result. Now, this headline is about 50 to 60 characters, and you want to keep it at that so that your text doesn't get cut off. And if you're wondering where this tag goes when you're creating your content. If you're using a content management system like WordPress, I have a little screenshot here. WordPress is designed, and these content management systems are designed to make it very easy for you to add what you need to add so Google can see what your website is about. So right here you can see at the top of the page, add title. That's your title tag. So they make it very simple for you to get all these components in place. The next item is meta description. So right underneath that blue clickable headline in your search results page, you have about 2 lines of text. And it's about 120 to 158 characters. So you don't want to go over that, or your message may be cut off and you're not going to really get your full point across to the viewer, getting them to click. So to the right here, you can see this is another screenshot from within WordPress. And you can see this blue link right here, that's your title tag. And then this copy down here is your meta description. You would just click edit snippet and you could customize that to however you would like. And then you can view that, how it's going to be looking on Google from a mobile perspective and from desktop. So the next component is headlines and subheads. So these are the H1s, H2s, H3s, and so on. And what this really does is it organizes the content on your page to show hierarchy of importance of that content so that Google knows, okay, this page is mainly about whatever is in the H1, and then the other subheads support it. So just kind of how you would really structure anything with headlines and subheads. And then images. You're going to want to add an alt tag to your images so that, let's say somebody's doing a Google image search, they're able to pull up one of your images. A lot of times we see this with, you should have image tags on everything, but a lot of times for me as a marketer, I use it for different logos, for partnerships and different things like that. So what does this look like to Google? Let's kind of put this into perspective. If you're Google, how are you seeing this? So you can go to any landing page on your website and right click and view page source. Click on view page source and you will pull up the source code of your web page. Now, if you hit Control F, you'll pull up this little search box here. And this is where I'm going to search for these elements. So right now I'm going to search for H1. Now I am actually on the APPA website. This is just a very random pick of an organization, just looking for the criteria that we need to show this. So I search for the H1 and I am not seeing any H1s on this page. And I know this is their homepage. Now, conversely, I go to the OmniPress page and I search for H1s, and to show you what it looks like if it was there, here's your H1. We have a better way to deliver educational content. Now at OmniPress, we have 2 verticals, conferences and training programs. So the kind of connection between the 2 is educational content that we help deliver. So that makes sense being the H1. And then you'll see down here, there's an H4, digital and print solutions for in-person, virtual, and hybrid conferences and training programs. So now we're adding more contextual value to that H1 to kind of support that statement. So this is on our homepage. These are great keyword-rich headlines that Google will be able to read and kind of be able to tell what our webpage is about. Now, back to the APPA example, I'm going to search for their meta description. So I type this in and I search, and here's their meta description. Website, homepage for APPA, leadership in educational facilities who are campus facilities professionals. So that's a great descriptive, keyword-rich meta description. If I were to recommend one thing, it would be to maybe take out the website homepage copy, and because you've got quite a few characters there, and maybe there's like one other keyword that you'd like to sneak in there. So that would be my only recommendation. The other thing here is if you look up here, you do see their title tag, APPA Leadership in Educational Facilities. So they're doing a great job. So now let's take a look at how this looks like from the searcher's perspective. So I've gone in here into Google and I've searched for association management companies. Now this blue clickable headline I mentioned before, that's your title tag, and your meta description is the 2 lines under here. So just like we were talking about before. And the really cool thing is that whatever your search criteria here, whatever your search query is, it's going to be bolded in the meta description. So you want to make sure to have those keywords also in your meta description, just for that simple fact, because it really increases the likelihood that somebody's going to say, oh, this link has what I need, I'm going to click on that one. So increases clickability. And Tracy, back to you.
Okay. So that was number one, really talking about getting those keywords into some key places on your website. And of course, everything Sarah just talked about doesn't necessarily just apply to your meta descriptions and your H1s, H2s, and your title tags. It also applies basically to all of the content on your web page. So making sure that all content you're featuring on there does include some of those keywords. Now looking at number two, document optimization. So in the earlier example where we were performing searches for content related to the 2019 ASAE conference session, document optimization is a big reason we weren't finding any results. So going back and looking at that 2019 conference agenda, you can see that with this session, they've included a PDF of the session presentation. But when I download and open the PDF, there isn't any metadata in the PDF that would tell Google to serve this in any search results. And Google does crawl documents for data just like it does a web page. The only thing that's really specific in here is the author, Lindsay Curry. So what should be in here is the title of the document, and you'll see it currently says PowerPoint presentation. It should actually be the title of the session or of the presentation. And then there's a big area here called keywords. You can populate that with all of these keywords that cover the topics that are talked about in the session. So topics like member engagement, conference strategies, what have you. So you get to this by hitting File and Properties in Adobe. And then under the Description tab is where you can populate this information. And then the same thing goes for documents and PowerPoints. So you go into File Info and you'll see the properties listed on the right. And this area that I have circled here, actually you can click in there. I don't know that people necessarily realize that, but you can click in there and you can add the title of the document and you can also add some keywords in the tags. So that was number two. Number three, our third quick win, is putting enough content in front of the gate. So obviously, we like to password protect our most valuable content, reserving it for members, which strategically absolutely makes sense. But we still need Google to find that content and serve it up in search results so that non-members can find it and have a reason to consider joining. So here's an example, again, random association. We just pulled this off the web. Just like a lot of us, they protect a significant portion of its resources. So when I go to its member-only resources section, here I see a list of the topics, but I don't really get any information in terms of, okay, what exactly types of resources and what subtopics are covered under these topics. So for instance, one of them is billing and collection. That could cover quite a bit of ground. And when I click on that billing and collection link, I'm just taken right to the member login. So there's not a whole lot of additional information. Now, from a user perspective, user experience standpoint, there's not really a lot here to tell me, okay, what can this association offer me? But on top of that, we're not really giving Google anything that it needs either. So let's pretend that I haven't come to the AAHCM website and I'm wondering about best practices in home care medicine billing. So I'm going to perform a search on best practices in home care medical billing. And again, this is page one of those search results. And I see articles and resources from a variety of other sources, including another organization here, NAHC, from the same industry. And there is one search result for AACHM, but it's their public policy statement and not actually any resources on the topic. Now, here's an example of an association that has done a great job of putting some content in front of the gate for users and for Google, but without actually giving away any of that content that they do protect just for members. So right now I'm on the members only section and I'm under the topic of leadership resources. And you can see I get an informative description of what sorts of resources I can find in the library. And this description is also very rich in keywords, so that when I then go ahead and perform a Google search on leadership skills for nephrology nurses, you can see that their library is the #2 search result on the page. And notice that there's also competing publications up here on this topic that aren't from ANNA. So again, it just reinforces why this is such an important step. So in all of these strategies we just covered, it's important that obviously we add metadata, keywords, and descriptions in the right places. But on top of that, we need to make sure we choose the right search terms. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah, who's going to talk about how to determine which are the right search terms to focus on.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay, so when trying to figure out which search terms to focus for, which keywords to search focus on, we want to balance search volume with search intent and search relevance. So search volume is simply the number of searches for a given keyword or keyword phrase. Search intent is the ultimate goal of the person who's using the search engine to search. And search result relevance is really connecting the two, the intent and the search result. Is it an accurate search result for that intent? So I'm going to start with search volume. And you can see on the graph on the left, um, the 60% of all searches are high volume searches, meaning they are broad searches, which are 1 to 2 keywords. These types of searches are great for high level awareness, but because of that, it is a more competitive space. And so what happens is people will need to kind of refine their search criteria to pull up a more relevant result. So you can think of this as I'm searching tennis shoes. That would be the high volume 1 to 2 keyword search result. And I'm going to get a lot of information, but it's not going to be specific to my needs. So I start refining, and that is what we call long tail keywords. They're 3 or more words, and they are really great for conversion. So for your organizations, this could be conference registrations or training program signups, ebook downloads, etc. And this is also going to be a less competitive space because it's more specific. So to kind of put this, the intent and relevance into context for you, I've done a sample here where I'm searching for virtual conference software. Obviously, that's what we do, so I'm very familiar with this topic. But so I type that in, and I'm actually getting 3 different types of products in the results. I'm getting an IT and software conference. I'm getting a virtual conference platform from Vimeo, and I'm getting web conferencing meeting software from AT&T. So if I was a user, I would be very confused on what virtual conference software really is. And it really appears that these companies are confused as well. So I would start refining my search from here. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I put this in here for a reason because I knew this was going to be the case, is that had you logged onto Google maybe back in February and searched this, the main results would have been the web conferencing meeting software. But since the pandemic and everybody's taking their conferences virtual, this space now means more of that virtual conference platform than it does the web conferencing software. So that's just an interesting detail. It just shows keeping an eye on things as things change over time. So what tools can I use to do some of this research so I know what keywords to focus on? So I'm going to run through 3 different tools that you can use. The first one is Google Autocomplete. It's our quick and dirty method, and you guys have all seen it before. You start typing in a Google search and this drop-down menu pops up and it gives you a variety of options. Now it's doing this because these are popular options based on other people's searches with the same criteria that you've typed in. So it does give you a very high level idea of other related terms that you could potentially focus on. Method number 2 is Google Keyword Planner. Now, this is the type A research method. So if you're really wanting to be accurate and precise in your keyword targeting, you're going to want to do a little bit more research into some of these terms. And the way that you do that is through this tool, Google Keyword Planner, which is actually a tool found within the Google Ads platform. So if you have a Google Ads platform, log in. If you don't sign up for one, it's free, and go to the tools section and then keyword planner. And you'll come to this page and you'll have 2 options. You can either discover new keywords or you can get search volume and forecasts. So we're going to go with the discover new keywords. So here I'm going to type in virtual conference and virtual event. And I want to see what other keywords are out there that are related to this. So I'm going to hit get results. And I'm going to come to this page and I'm going to kind of start at the top of the page here. So you can see that you can set your time frame. I'm choosing the past 12 months. You could set this for any time frame you'd like. And then down here, it's going to show you that you can broaden your search, and they give you some ideas of terms you may want to use. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to stick to what I have for this example. And then below that is a trend chart. And you can see here that in February, as I was mentioning, when the pandemic started, look at the search volume for these 2 terms, virtual conference and virtual event. They just skyrocket. So, you know, this is just a really great indication that things do change in what people search for, and the intent behind their searches do change. So then if you come down, you can see actually the average monthly searches for virtual conference is 4,400 and virtual event is 8,100. So based on this information, I'm going to say the term I want to go after is virtual event, but at least that's my primary. I may want to still include virtual conference sprinkled in there a little bit in my content that I'm writing for my website. But it's not going to be my main focus. My main focus is going to be virtual event because I'm going to get more traffic out of that. So then let's say I take these same 2 terms and I'm actually going to look for volume and search volume and forecast. So I enter that in and I come to this screen. And now this, like the previous view was looking back at historical data. This is actually future looking. So I'm going to try to see, based on Google's data that it's collected, its search data, what does next month look like? What does October look like for these 2 search terms? So in the center here, you can see that it has some data on if I were to run an ad, what would that cost me? You know, what would I be getting? How many clicks would I be getting for what I'm spending? I'm not going to focus on that right now because that's really Google Ads, but this information is so important for SEO and organic search. So down here in my 2 terms, I see that the click-through rate 3.5 and 3.6, that's very similar. So, okay, so now I need to kind of look at something else. So I'm going to look at impressions. So how many people are going to see topics with these keywords in it? And so you can see twice as many people are going to see content related to virtual events, and you're going to also get twice as many clicks on that content. So again, this is just reiterating to me that virtual event is the term that I want to focus on, at least for my primary keyword. Keywords everywhere is actually, so this is our 3rd tool. It's a Chrome extension. So if you Google keywords everywhere, you can add the extension to your browser. And this is a really good middle road approach. So it's not quite as in-depth as Google keywords tool, but it does give you some of that same information, and you can see it right in the browser, which is really cool. So at the top here, I searched for virtual events, and you can see here on the right, I get this trend data for virtual events. And look at this spike. That's exactly the same spike that we were seeing in the keywords tool in Google. We're seeing it here as well. And then below that is these related keywords. So it's going to give me some of these other terms where I could click on one of these, and then I would come and I would be able to get this trend data as well. The other thing I can do, and I didn't mention this when I was in the keywords planner tool, but these can be exported to Excel as a CVS document, and then you can, or CSV document, and then you can sort through it on your own. You can make comments, send it to other people, whatever, and you can just kind of manipulate it as you need it. But so that's another really great feature. Now, the other really cool thing about Keywords Everywhere is that I can also take a look and see what's on my page as a keyword focus. So I want to know, what is Google seeing the main point of this page is? So I go into Keywords Everywhere, I type in my URL. Here I'm using that abstract management OmniPress link again, and I run a report, and it tells me right away the title is Abstract Management Software Catalyst OmniPress. The description is Catalyst Abstract Management Software is a flexible system for collecting call for papers and managing conference content, speakers, and session schedules. So that is a very rich description, putting different keywords that I really am trying to capture traffic for. And then it does give you a count of the words on the page, which is also important to Google. Now on the right, you'll see that I can sort this data by showing me terms and phrases. Right now I have it selected 3-word phrases. You can go up to 5-word phrases and as little as 2 words. So, and then it's going to tell you the number of occurrences and where they are found, and then the density of that keyword on the page, because that's all stuff that matters to Google. So the first one we have here is abstract management software, and I certainly hope so, because it's an abstract management software page. So we did good on that. It's actually on the page 4 times. We can see it's in the title tag, it's in the meta description, and it's in the H1. And then it's probably just in the page copy somewhere as well, that exact term. You can also see in here virtual and hybrid events, event planner, call for abstracts, Catalyst abstract management. Those are all keyword terms that Google is picking up, telling it what this page is about. And those are all things that, you know, are going to bring people to our page. That's what people are going to be searching for. So now we've kind of talked about what is SEO, what are the tools that we can use to pick the right keywords, and now we're going to talk about what the impact of that your site has, the performance of your website has on this SEO, because it's not just about making sure you have the right keywords and having them in the right places and the density of it. You can have all of that, and Tracy mentioned this before, but if your website isn't performing according to Google standards, it's not going to help you at all. So we do need to also look at that, and this is really called technical SEO. And so the first thing we want to look at is your website mobile friendly? Google is placing so much emphasis on the mobile viewing experience, and you can understand why, as we're all on our phones all the time. So you want to make sure that your website has a mobile first or a responsive design. Page speed and load time. So Google wants your pages to load within 2 to 5 seconds. That's pretty fast. So if you have large images that you're trying to load on mobile, for instance, that could really be dragging the speed of your site down, as well as unused JavaScript or CSS code, and also your server response time. Let's say you have your server is having issues all the time and it's always going down or it's slow. You may want to consider switching providers or looking into that, because that page speed is going to be really important to Google. And how you can check in on some of this stuff and see how you're ranking on this, you can go to a tool called Google PageSpeed Insights. On Google PageSpeed Insights, you're going to type in, now I'm picking on associations now right now. You can type in a URL and they're going to give you a score for both mobile and desktop. So as you can see here, they're getting a score of 70. And so that's kind of middle of the road. A poor experience would be if it was red, or if it was a really good experience, it would be green. It is this yellow kind of color. So it's not bad, but there are still opportunities to make it better. And so you can see here, where this little red triangle is, cumulative layout shift. This is the big problem that they are having on their website. And it's really, that's really technical. I'm not going to get into all that, but it basically has to do with their image dimensions and the responsive design of their website. So if I were somebody at this company, organization, I would talk to my marketing people or my web developer and see if we can put in a fix so that we're not getting downgraded by Google so much because of that issue. So on same website, on mobile, they're getting not quite as good of a score. They're getting a 38. And as you can see on the right here, all these little triangles, there's a lot of different issues affecting the score on mobile. A lot of it, there's extra JavaScript, there's image issues, just a whole bunch of different things here. So again, those are things that they're going to want to look into and address to bring their score up. And this is just such a great, it just takes some of the guesswork out of what you need to fix on your website. And then accessibility. So this is really big right now, and it should be. We want to make sure, and Google wants to make sure, that our websites provide a good experience for those who are using assistive technology like screen readers. So of course, the on-page SEO, those tags and descriptions, that's all going to be great information for the screen reader to read. If it didn't have that, if you didn't have those in there, the screen reader would just be reading the content on the page. And so it wouldn't kind of give the upfront description of what this page is about. The other thing that really affects accessibility, according to Google, is user experience. So that may be the contrast of your page. Do you have a contrasting foreground and background, or are you using like a dark blue background with like a medium blue text? That wouldn't show up very good. Fonts and font size. The font size has to be large enough to be able to be easily read. And then the font itself needs to be a simple, clean font. So no script for your copy, your body copy. And then white space, making sure that there's enough white space on the page that gives a very good scannability for the user so they can scan your page, get the information, instead of just looking at a wall of text. And so a tool that you can use for this is the Lighthouse Chrome extension. And again, you just add this extension to your browser in Chrome, and you type in your URL that you want to look at, and it's going to give you information very similar to the PageSpeed Insights that we were looking at. It's kind of the same format here with this color coding. So here for accessibility, Associations Now is getting a score of 73, and that's pretty good. It looks like maybe they have a little bit of background and foreground. They could kind of work on that contrast ratio. They have some alt tags that are missing, but overall they're doing pretty good. So, but they could make it even better if they would address those issues on the page. And then best practices. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about regarding site performance. And this is just really about the trust and safety of your website. So Google wants to send people to non-spammy sites. They want to send people to sites that perform well. So one of the things that can affect this is your linking strategy. Are you linking out to other websites that maybe Google is considering spammy, or maybe Google is giving them a very bad score? That can actually affect you just by association that you're linking to them. And then also your internal linking strategy. So this is, are you linking from different places on your website? Are you linking internally to kind of connect the all the different areas of your website together? And then third-party integration. So this could be, if you use WordPress, maybe you have like 30 plugins and you're only using like 3 of them. Well, get rid of that extra stuff that you have in there because it's just not a best practice per Google. And then, is your website an HTTPS website or is it an HTTP website? S is for secure, and you want to have a secure website. And a very good way to see that just by going to your URL, besides if it has an S, it'll also have this little lock here, and then you know that your website is secure. And this is really important. Google will downrank you a lot for not having a secure site. And then there could just be some other network errors and browser concerns that Google may have. So in order to see what any of these issues are on our own website, we'll go back to the Lighthouse Chrome extension again. So here, best practices, they're getting a 79. So that's great. It looks like they're linking to some destination, some other website that maybe Google doesn't like so much. They have some low res images, but other than that, not too bad. And they can certainly go ahead, view this report and make those updates as appropriate. And that is all for me. So
All
I'll give it
right.
back to Tracy.
Thank you, Sarah. So thank you for those of you who have hung on. Quite a few of you have. I appreciate it. I know we're over the 30 minutes that we mentioned, but we covered a lot of ground fairly quickly. We are going to open it up to questions. So if you have a question, remember to type it in the box in your GoToWebinar toolbar. Or if you have to run, you're welcome to email us anytime. There's my email address. And yes, I've got a lot of consonants in my last name. And we do have a few questions that have come in. The first one, and probably most importantly, a few people who may have missed my spiel at the very beginning, is that will folks get a copy of this webinar? Yes, absolutely. I believe that goes out tomorrow, but then it's also going to be available by tomorrow or Thursday on our website, omnipress.com/webinars, so that you can see that basically anytime. So, okay, couple of questions. So first one from Jeffrey, spiders are always crawling. If I modify my site for title and meta, Google will log? And the answer is yes, they will. The only question is how long it will take. Google can take anywhere between 4 days and sometimes 4 weeks or so to actually log all changes in your website. But it absolutely will. And Google actually likes it when you make changes to your website. They like having something to come back to. That actually does help your site performance. Sarah, anything you wanted to add to that?
Nope, perfect answer. That's exactly right.
Question from Valerie, is Keywords Everywhere a free tool?
So it is a free tool. However, there are some paid options for it. So there's advanced features that you can get the paid version for. I have never gotten the paid version. I use all of these tools kind of in tandem together. So if I need a little bit more depth, I will go to the keyword planner. So yes and no. It's free and it's paid.
Okay, thanks. And then we've got a question from Barbara, who would love it if we would talk a bit more about the keyword brainstorming thought process.
So I can take this to start. It's really going to be industry specific. You know your organization better than anybody else. You know your members better. You know what your opportunities are, where you can increase performance. So I would start with what you know. So when I go in and do these searches, let's say for the abstract management software, you know, I know what people are kind of looking for. They're looking for abstract management software, abstract management system. They're looking for a call for papers, call for content, these different things. I know that, but I'm not just going to go on my judgment alone. I'm going to go to Keyword Planner and I'm going to actually see what people are searching for. So it's a good place to start with what you already know, then get that confirmed by Google in the planner, and then use those other keyword ideas that Google provides you, related keywords, and see if any of those match, and then continue to kind of do that research and refine. That's the process that I go by.
And one thing I'll just add to that too, because I end up doing a lot of brainstorming Sarah's doing a lot of it around our specific products to make sure that, we are in front of somebody when they're searching for these products and that we show up. So it's a matter of, okay, well, how are they referring to these products? What are they searching for? I end up doing a lot of research to look at content topic ideas, to be honest. That's another way that keywords can be used when I'm kind of stumped that I know I want to write a blog article about something in particular, but I'm not quite sure what angle I want to take.
Hmm.
I use Google and just start typing in some ideas to see what other resources come up and
Hmm.
see what information they might be missing. What angle didn't they take where I could maybe take a different angle with that content, and make sure that I've got some of those keywords in there as well. So I think it works for both, really.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. And it really helps too by typing it into Google. Always check what your keywords, even if it's, oh my gosh, you get so much traffic to this, Google is telling you. But if it's not relevant traffic, if what you're thinking is one thing actually comes up in search results as something else, like that example we looked at. Yeah, so always going to Google too, and just even making sure you're in the right place.
Yeah, we have some great debates about keywords and what we think people think they mean, and then what actually ends up happening in the world of Google. So it's fun. We do have a question from Mary. So could you say a bit more about good internal linking versus bad internal linking? So what does good internal linking look like?
Sure. So just to kind of start out, um, here's a real, I see this all the time. Click here, and people hyperlink the word here to a page about their services. Well, here is not adding any value to that link that you're sending them to. So pages get value, SEO value, from other pages coming to it for that topic that they're about. So if it's about abstract management, you'd say, you know, it's a blog article, learn about our abstract management software. They would click abstract management software to a page that's titled abstract management. So they're matching, you're not just saying click here, because here's not doing anything for that other page. You're building value to that other page um, with that linking, and that's kind of where I would start. Um, just it's all about connecting. They talk about, and you can look this up, but it's called pillar content. And so you kind of have like, three main or however many main topics of content on your site, and then you have, it's kind of like a tree. It branches out, and you have kind of like the subcategories under it. So I would look at the structure of pillar content. If you could Google that, would give you a lot of insights.
The other thing I'll say too, just from a user experience standpoint, bad internal linking is when you could get spammy with your own content, similarly to how, non-trustworthy
Yeah.
third-party sites get spammy with content. So if you're linking too much in a piece of content or on a page, and
Hmm.
it's really it feels way too blatant and over the top, and if it takes the user out of the content that they're there to actually get, and it can actually be very distracting, that would
Right.
also be an example of bad internal linking.
Yeah, exactly. Because Google will see that they're clicking on something and they're leaving it right away because it's not relevant to them. So their bounce rate off that page is going to be higher.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, Sarah. You do want to be careful about that. We like to incorporate a few cross links where we can, just to sort of, take the article maybe to another level, connect it to a product or what have you. But yeah, to Sarah's point, if you're constantly leaving that page, then Google thinks that that content is irrelevant. You actually want to keep people on the original source content if you can. Okay, we've got one more question right now. So, is it necessary to buy Google Ads to appear at the top of a search? So, I guess it depends on what you mean by the top of the search, because the paid ads are always going to appear at the top above the organic listings. But if you are talking about if you want to be the first one in the organic listing, paid ads are not necessarily going to get you to the top alone. What's funny actually is the reverse of that ends up being true. So the better your organic SEO is,
Hmm.
the better performance your Google ads are going to have, and the less
Hmm.
you're going to have to pay for those ads because Google is seeing you as relevant. What buying Google ads does, though, is number one, you take up more real estate on that page. So when I do a search and I see someone on a page multiple times, maybe a few different pieces of content, a few different ways, it tells me that that is someone that is definitely very relevant to my search, and it's definitely one of the sites
Mhm,
I want to visit. If
mhm,
I just see someone come up once, it's easy to think this might be a fluke. So you're getting that repetitiveness on the page, which builds that trust and that relevancy. You're also taking up real estate from a competitor, but
mhm.
just purchasing ads alone is not going to help your organic listing. Sarah, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you said that good. I guess I would just reiterate that does work in reverse, like you said. Your ads will perform better if your website is functioning as Google wants it to, and if your website is getting high rankings, that'll help your ads. So they do work hand in hand. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is the last of our questions. I appreciate your time, everyone, today. And thank you for joining us. And again, watch for a recording of this presentation coming soon so that you can see all of the tools. And again, if there's anything else you guys want to know, if you have any questions, just want to start a dialogue, absolutely happy to. Just go ahead and email me, tgrabowski@omnipress.com.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.